Okay, so you know that incredibly strange phenomenon? You walk into a room. Absolutely no one is raising their voice, there's zero drama happening, but your brain has almost instantly finished scanning the entire room. An avoided glance, a slightly forced smile, a sentence that sounds perfectly normal on the surface but is completely loaded with this hidden fake energy. You feel the whole shebang before a single word is even spoken out loud. Well, welcome to this explainer. Today, we're going to decode the fascinating and, let's be honest, often exhausting psychology of hyper-awareness.
A lot of people look at this razor-sharp observation and think, wow, what a superpower, what a genuine gift. But the truth is, this hyper-awareness is actually a psychological trap. Why? Because the brain literally has no off switch. People with this trait can't just easily kick back and enjoy the moment. They take the moment home, pick it completely apart, and this unstoppable radar forces them to overanalyze every tiny little silence until it turns into an entire universe of anxious thoughts.
So, where does it all come from? Let's dive right into the clinical origins of overawareness.
Empirical psychology usually divides this into two main camps. The first group is what science calls highly sensitive persons, or HSPs. These folks possess an inborn biological trait known as sensory processing sensitivity. Literally, from the moment they are born, their nervous system acts like this ultra-fine filter. It just automatically absorbs and feels everything far more intensely than usual. For them, the world just always appears in extremely high resolution.
But for the second group, this overawareness isn't something they were born with at all. It's actually an acquired survival state known as hypervigilance. And this often takes root in a really emotionally unstable childhood environment. Imagine a kid who had to learn to predict emotional disasters, like, say, judging exactly how angry a parent was just by the specific sound of a slamming kitchen cabinet. Their amygdala, the brain's danger alarm, became permanently activated, automatically building a network that constantly scans for danger just to keep them safe.
So we can clearly see the two pathways here: the inborn trait of the highly sensitive person versus the inherited survival shield of hypervigilance. Now, if you're recognizing yourself in this right now, please know this: you are absolutely not broken. You aren't crazy for overthinking. You're simply carrying a really deep intelligence that was shaped either by your core biology or by your incredible capacity to survive. The shield that once protected you has just kind of fused into your skin.
Moving into our core focus for today, the 5 signs of hyper-awareness. Let's look at exactly how this shield shows up in everyday adult life.
Sign number 1 is analysis mode. This is definitely the clearest sign, and honestly, it's the one that consumes the absolute most energy. For a typical person, a conversation is just a conversation. But for someone who's hyper-aware, their mind transforms everyday interactions into these complex, hidden equations that are just constantly running in the background.
Picture a super relatable corporate scenario. It's 4 p.m. and your boss sends a simple Slack message, "Come see me for a minute later." For most people, that's just a meeting. But a hyper-aware person reads that and a massive wave of tension immediately hits them. They perceive this invisible coldness in the wording. Instantly, they start questioning themselves. Is my boss upset? Did I mess something up? They hyperfixate on the timing, the lack of an exclamation mark, the whole atmosphere, and suddenly the self-doubt is just spiraling out of control.
The reason this happens is largely due to the default mode network, or the DMN. This is the brain system involved in reflection and self-referential thinking. In most people, it's active when they're just daydreaming or resting. But in the overaware, this network is heavily and constantly overactive. It's exactly why you can feel completely physically exhausted after just sitting at an office desk all day. Your brain literally just finished running a hidden marathon of interpretation.
Now, what's really fascinating is that this intense analytical camera doesn't just point outward at everyone else, it turns right around and points inward, which leads us to sign number 2, hyper-self-awareness. You don't just feel an emotion, you actively monitor it, dissect it, and judge it.
Let's say you're taking a walk outside and you suddenly feel sad. Instead of just letting the sadness wash over you, your internal metacognition steps in, acting like a judge. You start thinking, wait, why am I sad? Does this sadness even make logical sense? I have a great job, I should feel grateful. I'm a terrible person for feeling empty right now. Even your joy gets evaluated. It is literally like trying to dance while constantly staring at your reflection in a mirror to fix your posture. You might not miss a single step, but you completely lose the natural sense of flow and presence.
When that analytical camera runs for too long, it pushes us right into sign number 3, losing relational innocence.
Because of this incredibly deep awareness, you're essentially forced to see the backstage of human behavior. You actually lose the ability to simply trust the surface of words because you know people rarely say exactly what they're actually thinking.
Here's a perfect example. A coworker brings you a simple cup of coffee and praises a project you just finished. Instead of just soaking in the nice compliment, your theory of mind is instantly triggered. You start scanning for hidden motives. You ask yourself, okay, what favor does this person want? Are they hoping I'll share customer data with them? You suddenly realize kindness can be a calculated investment, and unfortunately, that makes every promise sound just a little bit fragile.
Shifting over to sign number 4, we have switched on empathy. For these individuals, empathy is absolutely not a voluntary skill they just choose to use when a friend is crying. No way. It is a constant, highly absorbent state that simply cannot be turned off.
This is tied really closely to mirror neurons. In hyper-aware people, cognitive empathy crosses the line completely into emotional empathy. When you see someone expressing an emotion, your brain activates as if you are actually experiencing it yourself. You don't just understand their pain, you absorb it. You carry the pain of a friend's divorce in your own chest for days. You naturally become the emotional regulator for the room, softening your voice to calm the atmosphere. And ultimately, you end up becoming a container for everyone else's emotional waste.
And those unexpressed, absorbed emotions, they don't just magically disappear into thin air. They sink directly into your body. Which brings us to our final sign, body anxiety. When you're over-aware, your interoception, which is the system that senses the internal state of your body, becomes incredibly overly sensitive.
Let's walk through this brutal anxiety loop. Step 1, you drink an espresso, which naturally causes a normal caffeine heart spike. Step 2, your hypersensitive brain detects this fast heartbeat, flips frantically through its data, and misinterprets it, screaming, danger. Step 3, your body activates a stress response, dumping cortisol right into your system. And Step 4, a full-blown panic loop begins. Completely normal physical sensations become exaggerated warning signals that trick your nervous system into feeling restless 24/7.
Moving on to Section 3, the illusion of control, or as many know it, analysis paralysis.
When the signals from your body and your emotions become this overwhelming, the mind frantically searches for an escape to restore some kind of order. The awareness shifts from simple observation into a really subtle defense mechanism. You enter analysis paralysis in a desperate attempt to predict pain before it even happens. The crucial point is this: you end up managing your life like it's a high-risk project instead of actually living it. You're constantly running worst-case simulations in the background. What if they pull away? What if I lose my job? Somehow believing that if you can just see the disappointment coming, you won't fall apart when it hits. But this just keeps you trapped in a maze of assumptions, trading your actual presence in the beautiful, uncertain moment for a totally false sense of protection.
So, let's talk about letting go of that weight. Here are 3 freeing principles. And remember, the goal here isn't to turn off your awareness entirely, but rather learning how to notice things without absorbing them like a sponge.
Let's walk through these 3 really empowering rules for boundary setting. First up, not every silence is a hidden message. If someone texts back slowly, maybe they're just exhausted, not secretly furious with you. Second, not every emotion needs an action. If your heart starts racing, try observing it without judgment. Tell yourself it's literally just a physical sensation and just let it pass. And third, not every insight needs to be spoken. You might clearly see a friend's insecurity, but you don't have to become their therapist. Let other people's problems remain their own.
When you start to practice this letting go, you make a pretty amazing shift. You change from being an exhausting, sharp laser that constantly tries to expose every single flaw and hidden equation in the room to embodying the mature wisdom of a warm candle. A candle that is bright enough to deeply understand human fragility, yet gentle enough to warm yourself as well.
Which leaves us with this final, really thought-provoking question to carry with you today. Will you continue to use your awareness to try and...
Okay, so